Hello, everyone. Welcome back. How are we doing? Long time no see, especially in this format. It's good to be back. We're going to be talking today a little bit about the throws we've seen across the world in this last week because the outdoor season's really starting to ramp up. We had two really big, significant competitions last week. The World Shot Put Series and Drake Relays kind of combined into one was just an amazing week of throws out in Des Moines. And then we also had the first Diamond League of the season in Xiamen Saturday morning. Here in the US, it was Saturday morning. And yeah, we had women's throws there. So javelin, disc, and shot. And really great day there as well. And then there were a couple standout performances from some smaller meets across the world. So we'll highlight some of those too. But yeah, let's get into it because the World Shot Put series was amazing. I have lots of thoughts about it. And Drake Relays as a whole was a really good week of throws. So let's hop right into that. So we're going to start off talking about the WSPS, the brand new World Shot Put series that was hosted on the Wednesday night at Drake Relays inside the Drake Field House. And it basically couldn't have gone better, I really think. So it's basically a pole vault slash high jump type format where you have set distances that are increasing each round. The throwers have to clear that. Two throws per round with a challenge flag as well, one per thrower. You started out with some local collegians and then you slowly brought in the professional field. And it was just a really fun, like, it's Ryan Crouser, who's kind of the founder of the WSPS. Like he said, this is solely an entertainment product. Like they weren't measuring every throw, which ended up being kind of unfortunate for Roger Steen and Trip Pippery because they both set technically PBs, but they don't actually count as PBs. But yeah, it was just a great competition that it went by really fast. If you guys have read my Sidious Mag piece from earlier on in the week, you guys already know a lot of my thoughts about what went really well. But the pace of the competition was really fun. The environment was absolutely amazing. The format, like, I was kind of skeptical about it going into it, and there were some factors, especially like with the challenge flag, and they like you this was more just to like help relate it to an American audience, but they brought out like chains like you see in American football to measure throws. So I was kind of skeptical about both of those because I was like, that might just be like a little corny, maybe. But honestly, they were awesome. I think everything went really well, and it got a lot of positive reception from non-throwing people that I saw on Twitter. So that was amazing to see. The broadcast is still archived in the live section of my YouTube channel. So you can check that out. I'll leave a link to it in the description if you somehow haven't watched that yet. But definitely worth your time, even though it's about a week old now, to go back and rewatch it because it was just really fun. The actual competition, Roger Steen takes the win, coming off his silver in Nanjing, a breakout indoor season for him to some extent. He throws the best throw in competition he's ever thrown in his life. He cleared 73 feet on his first attempt, and he was just locking horns with Trip Pippery once again, the same way they did at USA indoors, the same way they did at World indoors, and they both end up at 73 feet. But Steen takes the win on count back because he had fewer misses. And my favorite part was at 72 feet because both of them missed their first two throws. They both have to throw their challenge flags, and they both clear 72 feet. For Tripp, that was his PB. Because I think his PB coming in, his technical PB is 2174, which I think is like 71 feet, like 3.25 inches or something like that. So it was a pretty significant jump for Tripp to get over the 20 or the 72-foot line. And then he does that again, going over 73 feet on his second attempt. Just, it was a really exciting competition. Like the format worked well, but I think the format was aided by the fact that the competition like played out so perfectly, where you had these two guys just dueling and going head to head right at the very end. Kind of a surprising finish was Ryan Crouser, the founder of the WSPS. He only finished fifth. He only managed to clear 70 feet on the day, and then he missed two attempts and his challenge attempt. at 71 feet. And for Ryan, I'm not going to speculate about an injury or something, but it is worth noting that he wasn't doing the Crouser slide, which I know in he's kind of held back on that early in the season in the past. So maybe that isn't that big of a concern. But even when it was getting down to crunch time and it was like, okay, you're almost about to be eliminated from your own competition, he was still going with a static start. And then he was a DNS from the actual like World Athletics ratified competition at Drake Relays on Saturday. So I don't want to speculate, but I think those probably played a factor in him finishing kind of a little or pretty significantly lower than I think where a lot of us would have expected him, honestly. And a couple other guys over to 70 feet. You both had Peyton Arderdahl and Rajindra Campbell as well go over the 70-foot line. They went to 71 feet. And yeah, it was fun. It's easy to digest. The point of every attempt matters for placing. Like that really came through. The broadcast was great. Um, and yeah, it was just overall like a very good, I guess, pilot run or like a test run of the WSPS format. There's not a ton of like publicly available information about it. Basically, everything everyone knows about the WSPS has come from well, I guess the first event, but then also a couple weeks ago, Ryan did a podcast with Joe Frontier on the Throw Big Throw Far podcast. I will also link that in the description. Basically talking about some of the format of it and the kind of the plans for the future. And he said they want to do one at I think it's a Sorinex Summer Strength event, which is in the middle of May in South Carolina. And they will have women there, or at least that's the goal. I know the Diamond League probably played a role in the fact that there weren't any women at this first edition. Um, so I think the next one is coming up in 2 or 3 weeks in South Carolina. And if that is the case, I will be there. All right, let's now move on to the broader portion of Drake Relays where the World Athletics Continental Tour events were going on. And Thursday, we had Continental Tour men's and women's hammer, men's and women's javelin. And they both were really fun competitions. In the men's hammer, you had Rudy Winkler take the win at 81.08. I think this was his second time out, so this wasn't his opener. But it's his first time over 81 since 2021, where, he obviously set the national record at Olympic trials and then had a couple other really strong competitions in there. So this is a form we haven't seen Rudy in a couple years. He backed it up with an 80.76 and an 80.34. And like, the men's hammer scene right now, it feels like everyone is just battling for second and third because he hasn't opened yet, but it's just impossible to see anyone really being able to beat Ethan Katzberg at a global championship. But for getting on the podium, this is, as good of a start to the season as you could hope for Rudy. And, he took down a solid field because in second and third was the Minnesota/Greece duo of Costas Zaltos and Anuelos Montsaranis. And those guys are just so much fun. I had the chance to interview Costas at Florida Relays. That interview is on my Instagram. And he's just such a great guy. And they've both just been absolutely killing it the last couple weeks. And like Costas is a little older. I think he's 24 maybe, but Anuelos is 20 or 21. And he's thrown 77 meters this year, and he's consistently over 75 now. So like that's it, the NCAA Hammer Championship between them two, and then you got Trey Knight in there. Tarek's been throwing really well to open up the season, and just the way that the weight throw, obviously indoors, was so good on the NCAA level, and it's just very exciting to see the hammer start the way that it has. Little update for you guys. The day I'm recording this, it honestly might have been like as I was actually recording the video. Anuelos and Costas just exploded again at a meet. First of all, epic meet name. It was called like Hamline Meet of the Unsaintly, which is awesome. And Anuelos, 78.81. He goes number 3 in NCAA history. Just an absolute bomb from that guy. Meter plus PB. And then Kostas goes 77.59, which is a marginal PB for him, but like they just they just keep going back and forth, passing this NCAA lead back and forth, and it's so much fun to watch. And like yeah, Anielos is 20. Anielos is 20 years old. He's throwing 78.81. That's big stuff. In the women's hammer, we got a little mini preview of some U.S. championships matchups where you had Brooke Andersen versus Rachel Richardson versus Annette Chickenwoke. And so, Brooke had opened up, I think, a week or two ago. Okay, or not okay, a really good, really solid opener at like 73 something. It just feels okay because Rachel Richardson's opener in Ramona was 78.80 and moved her to number 5 all time. And then Annette opened at Florida or at Tom Jones a week ago. Interview with her on my Instagram once again. Shameless plug. Annette opened at 72 mid. So Annette and Brooke didn't have as flashy of openers as Rachel did, but then they come to Drake. They're going head to head. I mean, this is like just the depth of U.S. women's hammer throwing right now is insane. And so anytime you get to see them go head to head, it's an exciting thing. And Brooke comes out the victor here at Drake Relays. She throws 75.28, season's best, but she's only had 2 competitions, but it still counts as a season's best. And then Rachel goes 72.76, and Annette goes 72.23. So for Brooke, that's a really good mark. And like I talked about this a little bit with Cameron Rogers, I believe, in the video that both Rose and I did last year, where we broke down our top 10 throwers of 2024. Where in the women's hammer, because like all of the top contenders now are like the best women in history, because the event is like relatively so new and like the level of people throwing this far is such a recent thing. So like we need to acknowledge the fact that, okay, 75.28, right? Yeah, 75.28 doesn't look that flashy for Brooke Andersen, but like that's still an incredible throw. And it's just something where we kind of have to like reshape our perspective. Another part of reshaping your perspective was a really nice thing that I picked up in Rachel's Instagram caption about this competition, where she threw 72.76, and she said something along the lines of like, your bad days getting better is still progress. So she feels 72.76 wasn't necessarily a good day for her, which is fair. It's 6 meters behind what she threw in Ramona, but she's acknowledging the fact that even her bad day is starting to level up, which is really good to see. And I think that's a pretty good mindset. And then for Annette, she's a little bit behind where she was through her first 2 competitions last year, about a meter or so, but she's also a couple weeks ahead of that, and the season is longer, so I wouldn't look too far. A pair of 72s back-to-back weeks to start the season, she's going to be fine. In the women's jav, Nebraska, formerly of Nebraska, Rima Odebor, the NCAA record holder for now, because Manuela Rotundo and Liana Davidson are doing everything in their power to change that. She took the win here in 58.20 after opening up at a little over 60 meters in Ramona 2 weeks ago. And, it's a good win for her. She won in round 6. She went 58.20 because Madison Wiltrout, who went 58.14, was leading for a lot of the competition. So Rima comes back in round 6 and gets the win there. And for Madison, it's a pretty good sign because she's pretty significantly ahead of where she was this point last year. And last year, she ended up throwing 61.17, finished 3rd at trials, and only didn't go to Paris because she didn't have the standard or the world rankings. So getting solid marks like these, finishing 2nd in a solid, like a World Athletics Continental Tour meet like Drake, like those are really good signs, I think, for what Madison's going to be able to do this year. And that's exciting to see. In the men's competition, it's Keyshawn Strawn of Nebraska. He's still there, unlike Rima Odebor. He goes 81.01, takes down world leader Curtis Thompson, who went 80.88, and then Mark Minicello went 80.33. For Keyshawn, this is exciting to see because it's now back-to-back meets over 80 for him. I think he threw 80 meters on the dot a week or 2 ago or something like that. And those are his first 2 times over 80 since he opened his NCAA career at Auburn His first meet at, I think it was Texas Relays in 2023, he threw 84 something. And then whether it was like injuries, I'm not sure all the details, but his season was kind of cut short in 2023. Then in 2024, he just couldn't quite find that same form. Like it was still a good season for him, just not quite 84-meter levels. And so now him going over 80 back-to-back competitions, and this one over 81, that's very exciting to see. Then final note from Drake, on Saturday, you did have that World Athletics Continental Tour men's shot put competition. This one with legal marks. And Trip Hippery set a pretty solid standard in round one, going 21.52. And then the competition was just kind of flat for most of it. And then in round six, it really started to pick up. Roger Steen picked up his second win of the week, 21.62, equals his season's best, which I believe he threw at World Indoors. So not quite the 73 feet he threw on Wednesday night, but he got the work done. He got the win here. And then it was, I believe, Josh Awatunde, Rajindra Campbell, and Peyton Otterdahl, I think, all also had their best marks of the day in that sixth round. So the sixth round really kind of picked up after a slightly lackluster start to the day. Peyton and Josh also went over 21 meters. I think Peyton was at 21.39. Josh was 21.31. And then kind of an interesting note is that Jordan Geist and Josh Awatunde were the only two to throw better on Saturday than they did Wednesday night. Jordan, I think he threw like 2 or 3 inches better. I think he threw 68 feet on Wednesday night and then threw like 68.4 or something on Saturday. This is kind of like my weak spot is I am American, but I don't know meters to feet conversions for like any of the throws. I only think about throws in meters, and I feel like that is kind of one of my fatal flaws. So I don't really know, like, okay, like 21 meters. I don't really know how many feet that is. Well, I know 21.31 is 69 feet 11 inches because that is what Josh Awatunde threw on Saturday, and he only was able to clear 65 feet Wednesday night. So he improved by almost 5 full feet from Wednesday to Sunday or Saturday, which kind of makes sense because you look at guys like Tripp and Roger, where they took a ton of throws Wednesday night. I think Roger ended up at 11 and Tripp had 13. So it kind of makes sense that the guys that went out earlier had more room to improve on Saturday just because they weren't as absolutely gassed. But yeah, still an exciting it got exciting towards the end. And then, like I said, Ryan was a DNS in this one, which was unfortunate to see. So his official opener will have to wait a couple more weeks. We'll see when that ends up being. Moving from Des Moines, Iowa to Xiamen, China, let's talk about Saturday morning's Diamond League. And we'll start with a stacked women's shot put competition where Jessica Schilder takes the win in 2047. It's like 22, she threw 2069 indoors. So it's 22 centimeters off her PB, but it's an outdoor PB, and she's just continuing this really, really good form she's in right now. She picked up silver at World Indoors, and now she starts her outdoor season off like this. And the women's shot, just the level it's at right now, and like the high-end excellence of so many of these women is so much fun to see. So really good day for Jessica, but I was really impressed with Chase Jackson. Maybe some American bias showing here, but whatever. Chase finishes second at 2031, but her series not in order. She had 2031, 2025, 2004, 1998, 1990. So she had 5 legal throws. The worst one was 1990. And 3 of them were over 20, with 2 of them being well over 20. So, like, that's a really good day for Chase. And she, according to the Instagram post after, she was pretty excited about that as well. And then really nice to see a bounce back for Madison Lee Weshey after a really poor day for her at World Indoors, which kind of broke one of my favorite trends in the sport, which was that she had prior to this World Indoors, she had set a PB. I think it was every single global championship, so Olympics, World Indoors, World Outdoors. She had set a PB every single one since, like, Tokyo, I wanna say? So it was, like, 5 or 6 in a row, and then that kinda got stopped this go around at World Indoors, which when your PB is 1983, it's hard to keep progressing that far. But she comes back and goes 1951 here, finishes 4th. It was Gong Li Zhao, 1962, who finished in 3rd because obviously she did, because she's never going away and she's never going to get worse because she is ridiculous. But for Madison Lee Weshie, very, very encouraging to see her kind of shake off World Indoors, come out and open up with a bang. Women's disc, it's the Diamond League. It's the Val show. But it wasn't looking like that early necessarily. Her first throw, I think, was 56 something, and then she goes 63 mid in her second throw. So she was sitting back because Yaime opened at like 66 high, I think, which ended up being her best throw. She would hang on to second. So Val was sitting in third or sitting in second or third maybe. And then in round 3, she does Val things and goes 68-95. Typical. Really, I mean, just saying really good throw for her, like, it feels like it loses meaning sometimes with Val because, like, she just throws 68 high and 69 so often. But, like, we weren't expecting her to necessarily throw 73-52 in Xiamen, and 68-50 in the first Diamond League of the year. That's a really good mark. Some more good marks out of Loggy to Saga Collins, which we love to see. She finished 3rd, but she had 3 64s in that series. So that's what, like, the big thing. I've been lucky enough, I was at Loggy's first 3 meets of the year, because since she's training in Florida on and off now with Eric Werski, who's the throws coach here at UF. Um, I was able to talk to her after her opener at Florida Relays. I talked to her after Ramona, and then I talked to her a little bit after Tom Jones. And every time it's just been consistency, consistency, consistency. Like at Ramona, she was like, yeah, the 70-72 was nice, but I had 2 68s. That's the more encouraging part. For this one, for her in her first Diamond League, which is where, I feel like if I'm remembering correctly, the China Diamond Leagues last year were where we started to see kind of the cracks that ended up kind of derailing her season. And so now for her to come back here, put together a really consistent series, finish 3rd with a solid mark, I think it was 64-79, I want to say was her best. That's very encouraging to see from Loggy. And, discus is better when Loggy's throwing well. Final note on the women's discus field is you had season openers for Jorinda Van Klinken, Feng Bin, and Sandra Elkasevich. Pretty solid marks for all of them. They ranged from like 64-60 for Jorinda to like 63-7 for Sandra. So, first competition's out for most of them. They didn't go to Ramona and get that kind of shakeout work in and throw a massive PB or whatever. So, first comps of the season for all of them, and they all threw really well. Finally, you had the women's javelin in Xiamen, which technically wasn't a Diamond League competition, but the field was still kind of Diamond League quality, but it'll be even better this week in the Shanghai/Kekiao Diamond League. But you had Alina Tzenko of Greece take the win here in 64-75. It's her best mark since 2022, and it's only her second time over the 63-meter barrier in the last 2 years, since March 2023. So that's a really, really good opener. I think it's her opener. She might have thrown at the European Throwing Cup or something, so it might not actually be her opener. But 64-75, regardless, is a really, really strong showing from her. And like the women's jav just feels like it's so wide open, like from competition to competition. It feels like when you get to a global championships now, it's like Haruka will find a way to win. Um, but from competition to competition, it feels so wide open. And if Alina can fully get back into that 2022 form, like it's gonna be scary hours. Not necessarily scary hours because, like I said, everyone else is just so good as well, but it's just gonna be so wide open and, like, literally just a dart throw as to who is actually going to, like, win the world title when we get to Tokyo. And the exciting thing about all these Diamond League competitions is pretty much everyone is going again this week at that Shanghai/Kekiao Diamond League that I mentioned earlier. And, a lot of the fields are the same. The women's javelin field, since this is an actual Diamond League, is getting a lot better. You're getting Mackenzie Little, Haruka Kitaguchi, a couple other women that I'm blanking on right now. But the one that I'm most excited about, and if you follow me on Twitter at PHoffMahoney, you guys know how much of a Yan Ziyi truther I am. And Yan Ziyi is making her Diamond League debut this week. And I'm so excited about that because, like, you know, the only thing that, like, some people know about her, because I feel like she's still pretty, like, low key, is like, oh, there's this 16-year-old from China who is almost throwing 65 meters and is like a meter better than any other U20 thrower in world history. But this, like, against this field, like, this is a lot of the best women in the world. Yan Ziyi has the opportunity to really make a statement this week, and it is going to be so much fun if she does, and I'm going to absolutely lose my mind on Twitter. Aside from those two main meets, there were a couple other performances that I feel like are worthy of. I don't feel like they're worthy of a shout out. They just are worthy of a shout out. So first you got at the Easter meeting in Split, Croatia, I think. Adriana Vlagos, already the world leader this year in the women's javelin at 66.88, I think, from the European Throwing Cup. She goes 67.22 now. Her first time over 67, breaks the Serbian national record for like the bajillionth time. She's just so good. Like, I was really high on her going into the Olympics last year because just the way she had been building her season in 2024 was so good. Now, obviously, that didn't really go the way she hoped for. But now, like, she's back with a vengeance. Like, 66 high and now over 67 to open your season. That really is the scary hours. Like, if anyone is going to stop Haruka from winning on her home runway when we get to Tokyo, it's going to be Adriana Vlagos. And then finally, women's discus, Gabby Jacobs, 68.21 at the Rock Chalk Classic in Kansas at the University of Kansas. 4.5 meter PB. What? Are you kidding me? Absolutely massive throw from her. Very exciting. But now just like I talked a little bit about how insane American women's hammer throwing is. American women's discus throwing is just as, if not more, insane this year because as of April 30th, 2025, the 5 best women in the world are American. 5 of the 6 best American women in history have thrown their PBs this year. You look at Val Allman, Loggy, Jaden Ulrich, Veronica Fraley, and now Gabby Jacobs. US Champs is going to be a bloodbath. Like, thankfully, Loggy has that bye because she won in Budapest. So, we've got an extra spot on the squad. So we're bringing 4 women there and, like, US sweep. Not looking too shabby. I mean, it's hard to count out Feng Bin of a global championship and say, like, oh, she's not going to medal, especially this early in the season. Sandra Elkasevich is going to work her dark magic ways, and she'll find a way onto the podium probably somehow. But just, like, the idea of a U.S. sweep in the women's discus is looking real good, or it sounds real good, and it's looking like a distinct possibility right now, especially when you consider we will have 4 women in Tokyo. So that's got me a little excited. All right, well, that's all I've got right now. I think this is probably longer than I hoped it would be, because I just am really bad at stopping myself from yapping. But that's okay because we're yapping about the throws, and there's no more honorable pursuit than yapping about the throws. So we'll take that. There probably were some pretty solid throws that I missed in the kind of like extra highlights section. So please drop those in the comments because the people need to know about them. But yeah, that kind of sums it up right now. I will try and make this a more consistent thing because, all right, I'll just be honest. The love that like I've gotten and the traction that I've gotten after Ramona on Instagram has been absolutely insane. Throws fans are the best people in the world and throwers are the best people in the world. And it's, I just like obviously people want to know about the throws. And so if I have the opportunity to tell people about the throws, I will tell people about the throws. So I will try my best to make this a more consistent thing over the summer, obviously building into Tokyo. With the Diamond League kind of picking up, that should give me a pretty like regular schedule of things to talk about. And then obviously there'll be a ton of competitions throughout the season, just kind of with some standout performers. So yeah, I'm very excited about how 2025 is going to shake out for the throws. It's been a ridiculous season already. Um, I touched a little bit on Ramona, but if you guys need kind of a refresher on what happened to the World Invitational 2 weeks ago, my recap of that with Kara Winger is, I believe, the second most recent video on this channel, the most recent video. For those of you that can see it, because I actually got copyright claimed today, yikes, is interviews with a bunch of people from Xiamen, courtesy of the Diamond League AG. So yeah, I'm excited about what 2025 is going to have in store, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. But for now, that's all for me. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. The Instagram is Polythrows. The Twitter is P Hoff Mahoney. And that's all I've got for you today. So I'll see you guys next time.